to find us, to get a sample, to buy us, it's a lot of work for a customer, and I appreciate that. When you zig or zag, when the other people are zigging or zagging, it's just cheaper. That's why it works. So standing outside of the crowd is our brand. Our brand is disruptive in theory, hard to find, unique, blah blah blah. That's our, bohemian. And so if we have corporate world telling us we can't do it this way, we like it. You don't just zig the zag or against the market. Hopefully you're finding the right hole in the market to go against it that is productive for your business. But definitely going, because I have billion-dollar companies that I compete with, and I always make a joke that like I'm Celine Dion in Vegas. You may, in our category, you know who I am. You may never buy me. You've heard of me. One day when you're in Vegas, you're going to buy our product. So, and there are companies that could swallow me up with one day's production. So for us to have any national footprint, anybody know who we are outside this room is a big deal. I mean, we're not very large, and we are not hidden. So that's why you zag, is to be different.
Can you give me,
like this right here? There are companies that can have you full-time and have an assistant and you full-time and just do this, and it'd be like 0.00005% of their budget, if that, and they don't do it, and it's foolish. And here, this experiment, for me, it's expensive, right? Time is limited, right? There's other things we can do, so. And that's how you zig, because my fear is that when everyone starts doing this, that we've had more that we'll be wiped off the planet with this content creation for our industry. But if we have more practice, we beat them. You know how the music industry has been disrupted by web distribution, and so now you don't have to go to Capitol Records or whoever, I don't even know who owns what now, RCA as a gatekeeper, and have their people find you, and then they pay off disc jockeys with girls and cocaine. Now you can go to Shopify, you can go to Spotify, have good content, a good story, and don't need a gatekeeper. And so what we've done by accident, not on purpose, looking back, it was great, but since no one picked us, no one said we'll be your best friend and buy everything you can make and sell throughout the country for you, we had to make our own brand. In a way, we're in the old days it'd be called an indie label, independent label. So in a way, we become an independent label. We're self-published. We are the more say out loud, we are self-published. We self-distributed, self-published. We are our own music house and our own channels. We don't depend on anybody to live. Well, we depend on the group, but not one person. How am I going to still win? That's my emotion. I still want to win. So sometimes I will be patient, and sometimes I will go around that roadblock. So it depends on what it is when I get a no. So either I'll be patient or I'll go around it, and because I still want to win. I like the challenge. A win for me is having the company, at least in my mind's eye, living past my working life or death by at least 24 hours. You have no control, right, when you're dead. So, but at least in my mind's eye, I have the impression it'll survive one more day without me being around. So my goal is to build a ship that has a brand that's big enough that people will want to use going forward. And what's really cool about what we're doing here is, there's been generations before us. And then, what is that thing you do, Robert?
Ancestry.
Ancestry. So Robert is the first generation, and they have an ancestry tree that actually has him talking. You can, in theory, when you make the video about your family tree, you are the beginning of the family tree in a way, because it's the first time there's actually, before it's just still pictures, right? You actually can build the brand for the foxes forever, Right, you know what I'm saying? And same with this, we're doing, I mean, what we're doing now is building the brand, right? And so in theory, what would Armen do in, 80 years from now, is, well, let's roll the tape. How did he think? If you wait till it's perfect, you'll never get it done. So there's probably an opposite saying to that as well, something about macaroni and cheese and craft and boiling it right and mixing it together. But there is a tension there of just going, because if you don't go, you don't go. If you don't move, you don't move, and you stall like. So part of the people that we have been lucky to be working with in the room, Robert, for example, he is more calculated than I am. He does the book he did together, the big book. Great work, in my mind, it should be done, in a month and a half, right? But the way you guys did it was great. It was done, executed perfectly. So there is a balance in that. But even though you guys did it right, I'm sure there's a mistake in it, unfound yet. And so if you were to, and we had multiple eyes look at it, and if we were to have it read by another person, and find more mistakes, you never print it. So definitely at some point you have to say, does it hurt the product? Does it hurt the customer? Does it hurt you? If you find it, change it. If it doesn't, if you can't find it, it's okay. You're human. So there's gotta be a tension there. So you gotta move. You can't sit around. We talked about productive paranoia. You can't be unproductive, because if you aren't growing, you're dying. I read something a long time ago, where if you want to grow, you have to delegate. If you delegate, you have to be okay with mistakes. So I received that 100%. My dad's a perfectionist, but he did everything with himself. That's why he kept it small, everything with his own hands or his own eyes. I need the trust, like, for example, this scenario here. Hey, it's too canned, right? I want something different. So I have a choice: do nothing or do this. We're going to do this. And I know based on the other things we've done that it'll get better and better and better. And that's why we have those 10,000 hours on our competitors, because we're practicing, right, in real time. So what was the question again? To do the one part about knowing that you're selling to people. Also, don't forget to tell your story. I think you can be double our size or smaller than us, or you can be a billion-dollar company. You tell your story properly, and you treat people like human beings. I think that's what they forget. And also, too, the crumbs department. We talk about here is if we get any bigger, is not forgetting the jobs that are small or that are odd, is that those jobs that got you here. And so don't just say, oh, it's got to be about, if we don't run it for 2 days, we don't want to do it. It's got to be, hey, we're service oriented and we want to do long runs. So it's both. So it can be any size company, and it's I think it skews heavy in big companies because they lose something that as they get homogenized for the country, but definitely, like, for example, when I go to a Costco anywhere on the planet, it's the same Costco. The people are still nice. I mean, talk about a kind of a low-brow brand. It's not like it's Gucci or anything like that. It's just Costco. And every gas, my wife likes buying cheap gas, so every gas station attendant in those Costco places are always super nice. I've never met a son of a gun at a gas. Have you met a Costco? Well, I assume Costco's everywhere, so I've never been a bad Costco attendant ever at the gas station. I think why people like watching, what's the crazy guy with Tesla? Musk. I think what people like get it because you can tell he's taking a chance. People like him because you can tell it's risk. I watch him because he's a real story. It's a real story, and he could fail. You don't think it's not for sure that he'll win. Yeah. He may lose, which is part of the story. And having GE have that big collapse, that's actually interesting to see someone that large, who was the tower of American corporate giants, collapse. And then I was on a Boeing 777 on the way home, and Boeing, I would have told you the most trusted brand in America would have been Boeing and Ford, and I would never have guessed that Boeing would have screwed up like that. What I think that we have to do is do things simpler, and then hire more salespeople. Those are the two things we got to do better. I mean, and simple is a big word. Simple in manufacturing, simpler in shipping, simpler, and I have it on the wall, is less friction. So less friction for all of our operations, and then one more week on is getting more sales team. Either it's just people meeting people, or as a salesperson, or even just having a sales manager visit more dealers and architects. I mean, but having more people on the road. I mean, when I go to visit somebody, great, you know, and then I have somebody in Wisconsin that takes the content we're building and shows that, you know, and gets in their lives and shows them, hey, do you follow Arto Brick on Instagram? I know you don't have to watch the YouTube stuff, but they want to see how our brand looks, or watch this 1 minute video that Fat made on our Tuesday 2017 of last year's production schedule. Those are how you hear, you know, you go, oh, cool, you know, and we actually can execute. We're not just good looking. We actually can execute. I heard one time you have to be a little bit scared. I don't know if that's the right word. Definitely have to hire people that are better than you. And what I think I do offer, and I think I've heard it before, is I offer vision and direction. I'm terrible execution, although sometimes I'm getting better execution, better than the people that have better than me. But because I can track multiple items at one time in my head, that's a blessing, I guess. That's probably a required talent for a second generation or a founder type mentality, where you can track 15 incoming enemies at one time and get them all, or get 13 out of 15. It's definitely a tension between being the factory, the business number one, and while you're working is your family. So it's a tension between the two. Both are number one, and it's a tension. And what have I learned? That you need to have family behind you to understand what you're trying to do, because being that we're human beings, you can't do everything perfectly. Sometimes you can take care of the business very well, and sometimes what you learn is that humanity is humanity, and you know what you're trying for, an aspirational goal. If you really try to do the aspirational goal, then it's good. In this case, my dad tried to be full-time dad and full-time operator, and sometimes he was good at both, sometimes he was good at one or the other. Like my dad made a really good point of my dad wasn't owned by money. My dad owned money, and by that I mean he wasn't a slave to the dollar. So, and he worked his butt off. So like my dad had a camper that was ready to go. It was the old-fashioned one, the truck kind. And so when he finished work on Wednesday or Thursday, he'd pull back up the truck. My mom had it packed, ready to go, and we just left for a 3-day week. And he paid his bills, and his men got paid for 5 days because they worked. That's a good example of balance, you know. And I homeschool. I homeschools, and so I take the children when I can with me for that balance. And then I don't, you know, my dad did a good job with my brother and I, where he. My brother and I we were not estranged, but we had our own lives. How family does, you know, one's over here, one's over there, and you have your own paths, and you see each other on Thanksgiving or maybe once on the weekends. But my dad did a good job of having my brother and I work together, for better or for worse. You know, we have things to go through because it's business partner and brother. But he made it so I see my brother every Monday through Friday, which is, you know, if you think about it, it's a blessing. Or a curse, depending what day. But it's definitely a blessing, you know, the big picture, because it's my brother, you know, what a gift. What he would tell me is that you can do better, which is the hard part of being a dad versus the boss, because the boss, you're supposed to, which I don't do myself very well, is to nurture and nurture more, and I don't nurture very well. But my dad would say you can do better, you know, in as many ways of saying it. But I know he told people around his friends that told me that he was proud of what we did while he was around. So as a dad, you can't be their friend. You're a new dad. You can't be their friend, Fat. You gotta be their dad, which means maybe you might be a jackass till they're 22, because your job is this, you know, to be of a standard, and that sucks for wanting to be a happy-go-lucky dad, but it's part of being a dad. And it's the balances. And so with employees, and that's the thing, I was trained. My executive training was to treat employees like like a child, not negative child, fat. Robert, but more like a, you could do better. That's great, Robert. Good job, guys, on the big book. That was 2 months ago. Now what? But you can put a picture of the big book right here, and a link to the website to get it. But yeah, great in the big book, but then now what? This LinkedIn series, that's old to me. Right? That's my mentality, which is what I say out loud. But what I should say is, good job, guys. You got to it. But I don't do that very well. Well, what I do mechanically, not physically, mechanically, I'll put this in my bedroom and not take it out, so I don't get distracted. That's a phone. I don't open my computer until the kids are mostly asleep or doing their own things, and if I'm lucky, I get home at the right time. I'll take an hour walk. There's a nature preserve by my house. I just go walk, good power walk, and with no what's it called?
Earbuds.
No earbuds, and I run the tape in my head, whether it's home or work, and that's one way to get detoxed. And but really, not trying to bring work to home. I can do home at work sometimes, but I can never do work at the house. So I get into the spiral of deadlines and people need something. My life is work and my work is life. So if you're out of balance, which happens because you're human, your spouse needs to know that it's not a personal thing against them. You are working the 12 hours, 14 hours. For me, I work when I'm playing. I enjoy, it's my hobby and my mistress. And so if they're not on board, it makes for a hard life if your wife's not on board or your spouse is on board in general, because there's a home life, right? Whether you're a single person, you have family, whether you're married, no kids, you got a wife who wants you or a husband that wants you, and if you have kids, even more stress. And my wife, even her work-life balance is from this we eat. So she's a wife. She wants to be with her husband, but from this we eat. So she knows at certain times she's got to, as long as I'm not being a bad husband, that, hey, I'm bringing food home. It's also my passion. Rather that my passion be this than golf, I guess, right? It's an assumption, I'm at least my vice helps her feed the children. And when you're self-employed and at certain times of your life, you can travel with your spouse or your family. Since we're homeschooled, we bring the kids a lot to sales calls as well as road trips. And then this is June something, and I just came back from Chicago and brought my wife. I worked and she played. I saw her at nighttime for dinner. So I brought my girlfriend with me, my wife. So it was good. Well, I joke, but it's true. The first reason why is guilt works. So when we had younger kids, and I used to call on a store because I live right next door to it in Santa Monica called Bourget Brothers, and I bring my children in there all the time and guilt them into buying tile, and not on purpose, but just they connected with us because it wasn't a big nameless corporation. It was actually they saw when they pushed our product, my kids had shoes. It wasn't like I planned it, it was just the natural thing that happened. So that's good for the story of a company nowadays. But for me, that's what I know from my dad. He took me places. My dad did more installation when I was a kid, so I've been to many people's houses and saw how he operated in a home and how he interacted with people. And my kids, for all the things they can do better, they definitely do decent with eye contact and shaking hands and knowing you're in the room. And a lot of kids don't even do that. So I'm proud of that. I know it's not required to be successful in life, but it's a place to start. You got a leg up on somebody, because even though the Generation Y doesn't need to do that, they're still selling the Generation Me someday, or they're working with Generation Me, which is old. If they want to work, it's a great way to get a primer, right? There's that Malcolm Gladwell, I think is his name, 10,000 an hour thing. So the more you do something, the better you're at it. So the more they shake your hand fat, the more they know how to shake a hand. The more they see how things are done, the more they see how things are done. The more they do it, and if you start earlier, you get a head start. And it's not. I have a lot of kids, and not everyone's built for this. Some of them want to do it. Some of them dream about doing it. Some of them just want to be with me. So it's all over the map. I have a spectrum of the planet in my house. From this we eat. So it's great that there's something. That's my wife's quote, right? Well, she might have stolen somebody else, but. Yeah, from this we eat. So all of the family issues have to take second seat to the factory running, because if you have no factory, you have nothing to argue about. So it's not a job; it's a responsibility. It's a responsibility, and I enjoy it. I'm unemployable. Is that the word I'm looking for? I'm unemployable, but I'm good for this job. I like this job. I like this path I'm on, but I don't think anybody would ever hire me. So we hired a CFO a year ago, and his job is to do what I can't do. I can't do very many things with math very well. But also the conflict there, the tension there, not conflict, is, they want to see a certain ROI on what we spend. But when you're in a brand building business and not into a spending off cash business, you have a different mindset. So my mindset's to grow the business so it's got a good foundation. And the contrary, the story from him would be, you need a foundation to cash. I don't spend a lot of money, so that's the foundation right there. But I get it, more cash is good. At the same time, you got to build a brand. We're doing this series because we're trying to get our story out. Because if you know about our story, you know about what we do and how we operate, it may be that what tilts the scale to saying buying from us in LA versus buying from someone in Kansas or Asia. Story helps. The story goes that if you had a shop, and in his case a shop was on the second floor, if someone was to go off the street, walk up 13 steps into your office and left the dust in your showroom and left with no purchase, that's still gratefulness, because to go off track of your daily life, we're hard to find. To find us is a big deal. So if you come in this nibble here, thank you for your attention, because there's a lot of choices out there for your attention. If you're even watching me say this, thanks for your attention, because that's really special, because we have so much, because of the phone, we have so much interference with our lives. And I hope, again, we're selling here, right? Let's be honest, we're building a brand, but hopefully there is a nugget here you can use for yourself. I could have easily vetoed today filming, but because I came in last night tired and late, and I could easily be in my emails for the next 2 hours, never catching up. But stopping and doing this is important, and that's something, you asked earlier, what's important, what are big companies forgetting? I said all companies forgetting is people buy from people. The internet the internet purchasing way is a tool. But imagine having that tool with story. So having the internet to buy from, and then also having the ability to go to a dealer. The Arto brand for us right now, forever, is using our dealers. Our dealers are important to us. We may have another brand that's not Arto, but the brand that we have here is get the word out, make it easy to get a hold of us, get a hold of us however you want. That's a big deal for me right now, is getting it easy to buy our brand, and it's not. If you've ever seen the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind, it talks about a character, Richard Dreyfuss, who who, along with millions of other people, see something in the sky, and they're all drawn to this one point, Devil's Pulse pile. Is it Devil's Pulse pile? No.
That's good. I don't know.
Yeah, it's any case, and they all want to go to this place, and little by little, they don't have enough energy to continue the path, and only one guy makes it to the very end, Richard Dreyfuss, because either fear or circumstances, they get put away. And I made a comment that that the find us, to get a sample, to buy us, it's a lot of work for a customer, and I appreciate that very, very much. Earlier, talk about the coming off their busy schedule to find us. That's huge. That's huge. This is a longer story. This might be a good one for the second generation or third generation taking over. So, one of the things that occurred is when my father passed away an October ago. It could have been last year, a long time ago, but is for the first year we were in caretaking mode, and stewards. My mentality of stewardship was to not change anything and keep status quo. And that was just basically doing this, and you get tired doing this. And then the economy took it. So it must have been 2008. My dad got hurt, I guess. But 2000. So when my father got taken out of the business by nature, we were focused on status quo and not screwing things up. And then I finally realized that to be a good steward, I had to grow the business, not just take care of it, because I think it's a law of entropy. Did I say it right? I can't pronounce words. If you're not growing, you're dying. If you're not going forward, you're going backwards. There's no status. And then I took in 2010. I took a class with Goldman Sachs, and the first day of the class was called what's your exit strategy? Because without a place to go, you have no map to get there. So when I was doing stewardship, I had no map. I was just taking care of what I had. But if you have a place to go, you can make a plan, right? So our exit strategy at the time was to keep it the same way it was as it was the first day. So now our exit strategy is to get to a place that we can either sell it to a kid, give it to a kid, ESOP or something. We want to live past our lives, or past our working lives at least. So that's our goal for now. I care about money, but I don't need a lot of profit to grow the business with a brand, because brand is what sells. Sales channels are cool when you have a big sales team, but we have a small sales team, and we have 80 people here working because we have in our little world, in the little world of handmade rustic tiles built in Los Angeles, we own that demographic. So the better we are at that, the better we can be in the world. How did I get there? I don't know what I just said. You want to win. You want to win. Yet if you're not competitive, don't do this. I think that's part of what our dad taught us, my brother and I. We were very competitive. We want to win our way, of course, but we want to win, number one. And so even though you want to win personally, it's not at the expense of the factory. So that's where the tension is. You want to win as a person, but you make sure that winning for you as a person doesn't hurt the business. I won't step on Robert's neck to win. I'm stealing things I've heard. So one thing I've heard is you don't want to build the biggest, you don't want to be the biggest building in the room or person in the room by tearing people down. So I want to win by building the biggest machine. And if other machines around me are big as well, it's great. I just want to build the biggest machine. So I want to beat my neighbor, but I don't want to beat him down. Is that right? Like, hey, let's all let's all break the world record of speed distance running, but I'll be the fastest one in the group. Because I have a big ego. And I'm going to get it punctured. I wrote something else too. I don't know who wrote this one. Productive paranoia, is if you have, there's fear, and then you shake in your pants, right? And you don't do anything. There's also fear that's used to create change. So if I'm paranoid about something, but I'm not productive, then it's useless. So worry is useless. There will be a flood. There will be an earthquake in LA. I worry about it all the time. I don't really, but I worry about it all the time. But I don't think to change, prepare for it. Then it's unproductive worry. It's a waste of time. But if I'm worried about an earthquake and then plan for it, that worry gets put away. And then when it does come, I'm ready. So, productive paranoia. I didn't coin that phrase. I stole it from somebody, but it's a great phrase, productive paranoia. And preparation, and then also the 10,000 hours thing from is it Maxwell or whatever his name is? But the more you do something, the better you're at it. I mean, it's just practice. Practice makes perfect. It sounds, again, the same thing's been said many ways. We've all heard practice makes perfect, but it's true. No one's, tennis players nowadays start at age 3 with a racket, or well, I'm exaggerating, but they don't start at 13 like you wish they would when it was their free will. They start at 5 by, a slave camp in Torrance, California. But they're forced to play tennis. In 2013 or 14, were you even here, Robert, in 14? Were you? No. I wrote on my whiteboard, I said, hire a documentarian to tell our story. And it just was intuitive, the fact that telling our story was important. And so, is that what you asked me?
My question was why was media, creating media?
It just felt right. It made sense. This is before anybody told me it made sense. This is before I listened to a book or read a video or a blog. It just made a right note, because I have been personally blogging for work, not daily, but definitely out of 4 days, once a day, and it seemed right, and my brother and I knew when we went from 12 employees to 25 employees, as we got farther out. In fact, our first video that we ever did that was on YouTube by the National Precast Association has us talk about, hey, when you're LA based and I can pick up the phone and talk to the sales guy I knew for 20 years, that's great. But when I get to Texas or to Connecticut, I'm just a product without a story. So we knew back then that what we sold made us work in LA is we try and work out the rest of the country is make them know you. Not make them know you. Be available to be known. I can't force anybody to know me, but be available to be known. And so we believe that early. And I really have, on my Evernote, I should be paid for all these nuggets I'm dropping. On my Evernote account, I was doing it on the airplane on the way out. It says literally, it's a picture, hire a documentarian. Documentarian doesn't mean you have to be a documentary writer, but document our, this is before it became a popular word even. I'm just thinking about that now. But to do a story on us, is not just one long 2-hour feature, but literally, we talked about this earlier, this to me is almost too canned. It is too canned. And we don't have the budget or the time yet, is to actually do this Monday through Friday. And when I was in Chicago and I was huffing and puffing around for places in the rain, I'll show what I do. It sounds dumb, but it's also what people want to see is, the guy who writes the check, the guy's one that actually goes on sales calls, the guy does a cold call. He's not embarrassed to hear the word no. That's to me that's important to see that there's humanity. It's not, fake story, but real story. So I read the same 10 books over 5 years. So there's one book I read. It's How the Mighty Fall. It's a great book. Who's the writer of that one? I've forgotten. But he writes Good the Great as well, and all those good. But How the Mighty Fall is great. How the Mighty Fall is great because it's a book about, hey, when things are going well, you have the poison, the cancer in you already ready to take you out. So about hubris and self-confidence and thinking you can't fail. The moment you think you can't fail is the moment you fail. So I like reading that book. It's like going to church on Sunday and telling people there's hell, right? So it's not a happy book. It's a book about doomsday of good companies. I listen to Gary Vaynerchuk a lot, and only because of the fact that he's he's running real fast, and so he's like you know what a greyhound race is. Yeah, so the rabbit that runs in circles. So I use him for my rabbit. So I'm gonna eat that rabbit one day, but in my own little way. So I use him for a rabbit in the greyhound race. What the scale of speed is. The best book I've read and always talk about is The Gates of Fire. That's a great book. Love that book. I don't even know what the author is on that one either. I listen to everything and I filter out, and I either use it to verify that I'm smarter or verify that I'm stupider. A lot of everything that's being taught is out there. It's like I have not heard a new thought. I've heard a new way of sharing things. For example, there's one by Seth Godin on Monday. I'm paraphrasing it, and it was about a map of Boston, 1636 or 7. That's probably too early. Make it 1776. That's for sure they were there. My history's bad. And 2018, and the roads are all there. The buildings have changed. But all the roads that were there 300 years ago are still there today. But the buildings have morphed, most of them. And so like from that, I learned, hey, you build buildings, buildings change. You build roads, build good roads. The roads are there forever. So, does that make any sense?
Yeah.
It's like that's not a new thought, right? That's an old thought, just a better way of sharing it. Well, I know it because I have to sell to people, and we're doing this exercise right now because we want to tell people that we are real, not, we care. Both Fat and Robert said, why are you wearing this old red t-shirt? There's a hole in his sleeve. I think it's over here somewhere. Can you see my fat roll over there? No? Because I like this red t-shirt. And I actually shaved for you guys today, but I should have not shaved. But end of the day, if you sell product as just a number, then there's, to me, for a small business, then what are we doing? We just might as well sell the widgets that's on your devices here that hold up a camera. And I'm assuming the camera, what is this called again? I'm assuming the tripods that have the best product sometimes have the best story behind it because they cared about holding up cameras properly. So I don't know about your business at all with cameras, but well, you don't know, right? The hospitality culture that's uniquely us. I mean, it might be other companies might actually have that too, but that's not a small business thing to my knowledge. That's our story. Is how we try. At one time it was who we were, 100%. I think we've gone off track, and it's become again an aspirational goal of hospitality. We do well on the property, but I think we can do better when we're talking to people around the country, from here over there, even though they're not in our building, is treating them like they're guests in our house. And I think that's something we have to go back to our roots on. Definitely when you come to the property, we'll roll out the red carpet and get you, a manicure and a pedicure, but we don't do that for you when you're not in my vision. Again, I don't think it was planned.
Yeah.
I think it was just who we were. They threw parties at the house. My dad never met someone he didn't like. Well, yeah, he never met someone he didn't like. He may have wanted to kill them, but not dislike them. There was either you're in either like two camps. It's like, I like you, I'll talk to you, or you're I have to shame you because you did something bad. It was never like he had it very easy how he treated people, straightforward. And as I was doing more operation stuff later on, and he was just being more chairman of the board, he'd have a salesman talk to him for 2.5 hours about his home life and how to help him with his wife. I mean, I'm not joking. That's my dad ended up being that kind of guy to the people that came and called on him. Yes, because I have ignored my retirement plan because I'm busy running a business, and so if you own your property and you're there for a while, it's basically a built-in retirement plan. For me, my size business, I don't have a financial guru as my other priest. run my own books at home, and I have some for I have a little bit of 401k, but I see people full time with the retirement, and that's their responsibility. My responsibility is number one, the factory, right? We talked about it earlier, but number two, to do so, if I'm going to do that. And again, this was unplanned. I realized it later on. If you're in a building for 20 years, you own it. So there's a retirement, and it's not cash, but it can. If you want to move or you want to do whatever, is cash flow when you rent it out to the business itself or to a stranger, or outright sell it. And if you also are lean on your expenses, when a building in the right city can pay for your retirement completely, whether it's cash flow or outright selling it. So. Arto's on 3 properties, and we bought them all out of need, not out of. We bought them because in West LA, we were what's it called when they make a neighborhood nice?
Gentrification.
Yeah, we got moved out of the West Side. We were a great property. We got moved out of there. Sorry, it wasn't. We leased long-term lease. We didn't own it that place, but we had to move. We were forced to move, and so we wanted a place that we owned so that couldn't happen again. And we found this place out of need. We were growing in 2016. We bought, and it was next door. We bought another building. But we were growing again. We bought the building we're in right now. So again, not planned for my retirement, planned for just necessity and not being told to get off my land, but that we own our land. Why? It's good to have I don't smoke cigarettes, so having a good coffee is like smoking a cigarette. I would assume it slows you down to make you think. Yeah, for me, it's the stressor, something communal to talk over with other people, and just because breaking bread's pretty intimate, and coffee is intimate, sharing with people, and that's why. And I like coffee. That's why.
What kind of coffee do you like?
Whatever tastes good. I'm not how's this? I guess I'm a neophyte. That's the word. I'm not sure. I like coffee when I like coffee. So if I have coffee that's expensive and I hate it, I hate it. If I have coffee from some place I have no clue where it comes from and no one knows it exists and it tastes great, I like it. So it's a matter of. Someone told me when I was 19 years old buying my first cigars, I told him, what should I get? The guy said, you should just buy what tastes good. So same thing with the coffee. So you get old, right? And when you're old, you figure out that you have something and you want to be hubris and humility and say you have it. I've heard multiple times that I have a disarming nature when I meet people. Okay, is that true?
Yeah.
I don't want to destroy the planet to abuse that, but I think using it for the good of the company is not a dumb thing to do. And the more that we can use my disarming nature, on this, whether it's say, hey, when I'm, oh, that's Armen. I've never met him, but I get it. That's why people trust the son of a gun. Even he might make mistakes, but he's genuine, And that's something really important that we get across. That's something, and talk about our exit strategy, building this history of pictures that you've been taking in the book and literature you've been making, and then this video we're making. Talk about adding what's goodwill to the bottom line of a business sale, or adding a brand value. This is incredible stuff that we're doing, and this is the things that people should be doing.